Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Today we have a question from Maureen who says, what do you think about using resistance bands for improving your punching? Man, you're in luck. Resistance bands? Guess what? My sponsor, xmartial.com, awesome folks that they are, just sent me a whole bag of resistance bands. And I'm going to show you how to use these for punching, but it's probably not what you're thinking. Let's read the rest of this question and I'll explain why. Maureen apparently watched my video, punching with weights is stupid, and says, I know you don't like using dumbbells for punching because you can't keep your hands relaxed. It's actually more than that, but yeah. However, with the bands, you can use the palm of your hands as hooks, and this way you still get that snap in your punches. Plus, when you attach the bands behind you, the produced force needs to go forward, which is more like a punch, unlike the dumbbells that pull your hands down to the floor. After punching for a few rounds, my left shoulder starts to fatigue very quickly. I have had some minor injuries with my left shoulder in the past, and I hope to improve this by doing the banded punches. Do you have any other tips for shoulder problems when punching? It's mostly with my jab. All right, Maureen, let's get into this. What's wrong with punching with weights? But Ramsey, I saw a video where Floyd Mayweather is shadow boxing with weights in his hands, and you know, he's an awesome boxer and he does it. Well, man, if Floyd Mayweather jumped off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too? But what's wrong with this? Now, in the video I mentioned a couple of things. If you're squeezing everything really tight the whole time, essentially you're putting on the brakes on those punches, okay? And additionally, this is 2 kilos. Let's get something a little bit heavier. Just for a visual, here's 6 kilos. Now, if I hold these weights out in front of me, what is happening? There's this weight, dragging me down. And what's holding it up? My shoulder muscles are holding these up in this position, okay? And that's so biomechanically different from actual punching. See, if I'm punching forward, boom, there's this weight dragging it down. I'm punching forward, gravity's pulling it down. I'm creating this very weighted distal point of the lever, dragging my arm down, putting all this extra stress on my rotator cuffs. Now, what Maureen was talking about, right? Anchoring the resistance band somewhere behind you and then hooking the hand here and essentially pushing, okay? And she is correct in the assumption that this is going to cause less damage to your shoulder and perhaps emulate a punch a little bit more, except for one thing. Punches are not pushes. What are they? They're pulls. I imagine you're probably a right-handed person. You probably have your left in the lead, and you're probably throwing left hooks and feeling like, oh man, my left hooks are pretty worthless. And there are a lot of well-intentioned YouTube channels who've made videos about why your left hook sucks, and they get every single detail of it wrong. So let's fix it. Put the pull in the punches. You're right-handed. Do you know what punch knocks out most people? Left hooks from right-handed people. How do they generate all that power? From their right shoulder. By pulling that right shoulder back. Try it just now, right here, where you are. Pull your right shoulder back. What happens? It drives your left arm forward. You have a lot of pulling power in your right side if you're a right-handed person. Take advantage of that. If you try to hurl your left arm forward, you are putting a bunch of undue stress on the joint of your shoulder. If you pull your scapula back, we're doing the polar opposite of that. Good biomechanics are going to solve so much more problems than gimmicky exercise tools or routines. So let's go over some of those. Pulling your shoulder back to generate power in the opposite arm. Have you ever felt like, man, my lead hook sucks. Maybe I'll put my hip into it. It still sucks with my hip in it. Put your shoulder into it. Pull the opposite arm back. If you want to generate power in a lead hook, pull the opposite arm back. See this motion right here? It's very similar to generating power in a kick. There are many body mechanics for kicks. There's the standing leg that makes a big difference, but the lead shoulder, I should say the shoulder on the same side as the kick, makes a massive difference too. If I drive this in with my kick, effectively doing this wild dynamic crunch, I made a whole video about round kicks before, we can radically improve and increase the power of the kick. Similarly, if I throw a right hook and it's just an arm punch, it's really gonna suck. If I put my hip into it, that'll be a little better. If I put my shoulder into it, now it's a lot better. Now, let's hook up some resistance bands. So Maureen was talking about something like this, anchoring the resistance band and then pushing it out there. And this won't make you worse at punching, but it won't necessarily make you better at punching either. Because punches are not pushes. It's a fun movement though. Don't stop doing it if you like it. If it's giving you the result you want, do it. But pull instead of pushing. One thing I really like about this set of resistance bands that Ex-Marshall sent me is that they're on the lighter end. Now I've got some really heavy ones up to 100 kilos of resistance over in the weight room, but these ones are smaller. Why? Because this is for isolating our shoulders in positions where we don't need to bear a bunch of weight. So let's use one of the smaller ones. By the way, you can find these on xmarshall.com. Use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything, including the sweet Panda Rash Guard. Now, if you weren't a Boy Scout like I was, I'll teach you how to tie a lark's head knot. You loop this around something. You have that open loop right there. You take this other open loop, put it through that, and put them together. Boom, you got a lark's head knot. That's gonna stay, okay? If you want more tension, you can put it around something farther away from you, such as that post back there. Now I'm gonna hold it in my right hand, and I'm gonna pull back this way to train my left hook. This might seem counterintuitive, but I'm going to add power to my left hook by pulling my right shoulder back. And you do the same thing with a jab or an uppercut or any other type of punch with the right. I'm going to pull this back. So the snap that we want in the punch, as far as resistance bands is concerned, is the pull. Now, if I'm actually punching, I'm pulling my right hand back to my jaw because I always want one of these hands living on my face as I'm throwing a punch. Big misconception about the guard is the idea that both of the hands always need to live on the face. No, there are lots of different guards, Philly shell, crab guard, right? Long guard, English boxing stance, where a hand doesn't even touch the face at all. We're protecting it with other things, but that's beside the point. So notice as I throw a left hook, what am I doing? I'm pulling this shoulder back. Now, when I started martial arts, I started in Taekwondo and also in Shotokan Karate, and they taught us all this stuff about moving your hips, right? And how important that is to drive the hip to generate power into the punch. And yeah, all that stuff applies, sure, but what many people are never taught is the power of pulling the shoulder. And we see these in karate forms all the time. When we pull one arm back and the other comes forward, both sides of the body are participating equally, and yet for some reason when we actually start punching, we tend to become very unilateral movers in terms of shoulder mobility and only move one, and then eventually that left shoulder starts hurting. Ow, 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 this sucks, my shoulder's tired, and then we start dropping it and developing bad habits. So instead, pull this other opposite shoulder back. And that is where these really, really shine. Pull them back, pull them back, pull them back. Work those hooks. And if you want to work the opposite side, then hold with the opposite arm and pull with the opposite arm, right? But again, since Maureen, you're talking about your left side, your left arm, you, especially if you're holding onto a weight like this, and I add all this extra weight to my arm and I throw it out there, again, I'm forcing myself to put on the brakes and flex every muscle in the body. And if I throw a punch with some explosion, out here, I've got to try to stop it right before the momentum of the weight carries my arm further out there, and that's going to do the herky-jerky dance on my shoulder. I don't want that. Oh man, I could easily throw my shoulder out of alignment and dislocate it again if I put any amount of speed or power into this type of movement. That would suck. But I can absolutely throw a full power punch because I'm not relying on this shoulder to drive my left. I'm relying on this one. So give that a try. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.
Hey fella, looks like you could use a rash guard. What for, you say? Well, they protect your skin against mat-borne illnesses, mat burn, and they make you look incredibly cool. But where do I get a rash guard from? Hey, have you heard of xmartial.com? Yeah? Then what are you waiting for? Check them out right now. xmartial.com has all kinds of rash guards, from sleek and simple, novelty, badass designs, and more. Channel your inner Japanese cartoon rat monster. Express your love for bad puns and kitty cats doing iconic jujitsu moves. Hey, that panda's gonna hit the other panda with a folding chair like a pro wrestler. And this one makes your right arm stand out. NoGiBJJGear.com is now xmartial.com, serving your needs beyond just no-gi Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, find brand new equipment for mixed martial arts, kickboxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, and more at xmartial.com. As always, use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything on the website. Once again, that's xmartial.com. Rash guards, spats, shorts, and more. Links and discount codes in the description below.